Well, good morning. My name is Dave Hunsinger, and welcome to this Wednesday, October 14th edition of Keystroke Live. Benefit of coming today is you don't have to look at me. We've got the camera trained on the Genius device here. So the screen doesn't come through so well, but you'll get a feel for it. This is Keystroke Live. It's every Wednesday, same time, same place, same login. And we are kind of talking about EMV the next couple weeks here. And the EMV and the Cayan Genius, one of the beauties of the Cayan Genius is it's easy to set up, um, easy to utilize. It's not a lot of process or tweaking it. It just kind of plug it in and it works. It does need its own Ethernet cabled network connection. So you want to be sure you have that, as well as you assign it an IP address. We like doing static IP addresses. That way it doesn't change if it reboots or if a router reboots. So that can help a lot. And we've got simple instructions to get into the Cayan Genius and set it up. The display is controlled by Cayan, so they've got a pretty simple, straightforward step-by-step procedure through the EMV transaction. It works pretty well. And for EMV, you do need a um, update from Cayan uh, to utilize EMV, and you also need Keystroke version 8. Now, the with the Genius, there's a couple of ways of kind of getting into the workings and the software running on the device. One is by depressing the reset button on the bottom. You can also get there by doing the exact same thing by pressing 1, 5, and 9 at the same time, kind of across the line. And that gets you into the setup. So you can turn on and off contactless, you can turn on and off payment types. There's also the Cayan's system status screen, and there you press 000, and it says admin there, enter password, and I enter my password of 9416557, enter. And you probably can't see, I have a sticker right here that's got uh, how to get into the two different modes and then the password. So, because I do it so much. But on here, you get choices of there is update, restart, and test. The test does what they call is a heartbeat, and it goes out to Cayan and just makes sure everything is communicating. And in this text up here that you can't really see, its last heartbeat was October 14th at 9:45, so that was 20 minutes ago. When I just touched the update button and it came back to me and said no updates were available. So I hit the update, it checks, comes back, says no updates available. Last week when we first tested the Cayan Genius, you hit that update and it said update available, it downloads it and installs it on the device. So doing that update, if you go into your Cayan Genius right now, you're not going to see this software version. It's 5.0.0.1. I think we're on 4.443 or 4.334, one of those right now. They have to queue it up for your device. So you're not going to accidentally update if you're not ready to go EMV. They've got to have it ready to, as they say, push down to you, and then you've got to go to the device and say, okay, send it to me. So it shouldn't happen just automatically overnight. It will take kind of both sides being ready for it so you won't accidentally update. So I am going to press X to exit, or I could press restart. And so there I'm back at the Cayan Genius. Now, we tested this extensively last week when they went live. There were a few things they were fixing about some auxiliary payment information that we were transferring back and forth. And they didn't fix it. They broke it more, and that was supposed to be fixed Monday, and then it was supposed to be fixed today. Now it's supposed to be fixed tomorrow. So the transaction goes through, but we do get a invalid transaction ID when it's passing the secondary transaction information, just to give you a heads up. I am going to switch to my other screen, and if I get to the right keystroke, here we go. And if you were at the dealer summit, you know part of, I didn't type it right. Part of Keystroke version 8 is it's secure, a lot more security features incorporated into the software, and one of those is for manager levels. You have to have a password. You have to change it every 90 days because that is all PCI security settings. So I'm going to select hardware and pin pad. And so to use it, it's real simple. You set up your pin pad type, you select the Cayan Genius, and then here in setup, you put in your business name, your business key, your site ID. One thing to be very aware of is when Cayan sends you these credentials, they send you the business name, the site ID, and then the business key on the third line. So be sure you're not putting the key in the ID or the ID in the key. The key is the long one. So just be sure you get those straight. Then there's the payment mapping. So that's saying when the customer selects the payment and it comes back as Discover, do you want to map that to a separate Discover payment type or a credit card payment type, where all that goes? And these are all the possible choices within Genius. You see there's Level Up, and I think that was the last one, EBT and Level Up. But so those are all the options. So that maps on how it comes back, because when you see it initially, it just says selected by customer. You can also do the gratuity and donations and discounts. There is the IP address. Remember, this IP address is stored in the registry of the local computer. So this computer I'm sitting at might be 66, but 2 aisles down, it might be looking at 10.1.8.68, because you've got different IPs for different Geniuses, and you want to be sure you're using the one next to it. It also makes it very easy for two terminals to share one Genius, because you can just put the IP on both of them to look at that. And then with EMV, there is a declined receipt. Part of EMV is you have to give somebody a printed receipt if their card is declined. So, because it has a couple, some auxiliary information, and it's part of the good old-fashioned offline transactions. So that's part of the requirement, is to print a declined receipt. So this is just what form you've got selected and what you're printing it to. So the setup's real simple. This test is real straightforward in here. I mean, you can go ahead and do it. It tests it. It checks the device status, and it's saying it could not connect. It looks like it could not connect because, good thing I did a test, I knocked out the Ethernet connection. Getting my fancy video setup going. So now, if I could just get this in here, and something I will tell everyone too is, if you see on our Genius, I took off the dongle, and just because we move it around a lot, so you can, there's a dongle cable that comes out and a little block on it. You can unplug that from here, just plug the power into the back of the Genius and put your Ethernet connection right there. So it sure does make it easier to move around a lot. So now I'll try to get this framed nicely again so that you can see it. Now, when I do my test pin pad, goes there. Oh, and it won't test here because I have invalid credentials. It's okay, I'll set it up, and I am going to switch to my other copy of Keystroke. And here, if I go to configuration, hardware, pin pad, test pin pad, does the test transaction, gets the transport key. That's what identifies this transaction with the Cayan mothership. And now if you see here, it's $6.01. It gives you the choice, credit, debit. I can just take my EMV card, insert it. It knows I'm doing EMV. It thinks about it. Asks me for a signature. And at the end there, please remove card. And if you see there, status approved, have all the information. I don't need to see the signature, remove the payment, and takes the payment back off. So I'm ready to go. So now I'm just going to go into the sales manager, and I'll do this one with an Amex. And this is actually our live keystroke processing account with Cayan that we're using. So I am just going to sell myself some golf tees. I am yes. Please wait while it's getting ready. I insert my card. And at the top it says insert, swipe, or tap. Tap being if you're doing an Apple Pay transaction. There, it's done. I accept it. Tells me to remove the card. And again, I get this invalid transaction ID. Again, that's some secondary information that they don't quite have set up on their servers correctly yet. But we hear that'll be tomorrow morning. Total approved. Okay. I can save it. And it automatically prints some receipts. I've got them set up to go to text files just so I burnt through a whole bunch of paper already. Also, if you do need to, I can say transaction void, void invoice number, go to that last transaction I entered. Payment will now be voided. It can void that because of the tokenization. It's got that information stored. I can send the token back and say, hey, void that transaction out without having the card inserted. So you don't have to have the card to do that void. But also remember that's a limited amount of time that information is saved for voiding. And so that's not a perpetual thing, but within at least 3 days, you can go in there and void that. So that is the Genius with EMV. Again, really all you have to do is get the software update and version 8, and you'll be ready to go. So there's not a lot of preparation, and we are working out these are kind of little secondary things we're working out with Cayan, and hopefully have them figured out this week, and we are putting it in at least one pilot either at the end of this week or beginning of next week. So I am going to unmute everybody and see if anybody has any questions.
You mentioned, Dave, that you had instructions. Is this on the website, on the CD, or where are the instructions that you referenced earlier?
They are on the website for the if you go into the updates library and then third-party software, there's how to set up the Genius.
Okay, thank you.
But it's pretty easy to set up. It works pretty well.
Hey, Dave. John with Run PC.
Hey, John.
Hey, I have a quick question. I've got to do a Genius setup for a client next week. They're the old Keystroke Classics. I'm going to have to upgrade them to at least 7.15.
Okay.
Would you recommend I go to 7.15 temporarily and just set up the Genius? I would understand EMV won't work, but the rest will.
Yeah, I would say that's probably a pretty good plan. And it's a big step if they're going from Classic to 715, and that'll ensure that step is smooth. And it's kind of a little step going from 715 to 8, and that'll be easy to do anytime.
So will the EMV compatibility ever be available for 715, or is it going to require 8?
It's going to require 8.
Okay. All right. I think that's all the questions I have. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, John.
Dave?
Yes.
This is Jesse. I didn't like that part where you could void a ticket because that don't give you any security there. Your clerk could void the ticket and then pocket the money.
Well, that is a security level, being able to void a ticket or change a payment amount. So, I've got it wide open as a manager. Plus, if it's a credit card, obviously, they can't pocket the money because it's all digital. But it's definitely part of the Keystroke security level. And, yeah, you want to be sure for voiding transactions, deleting line items, changing payment amounts are all, if you're concerned with clerk activity, those are all security levels to look at.
Okay, thank you.
You mean it doesn't automatically close the transaction?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Again, I didn't get the question there.
That's okay.
All right, and yeah, the setup instructions are in the downloads library. There's the downloads, and then there's a third-party software selection. And you go in there, and we have it for all the PIN devices, ISC250, the Genius, and like the Topaz signature capture, all that kind of stuff.
Hey, Dave, I got one more question for you. I wasn't at the summit. Is there a way for me to get a copy of Keystroke 8 to play with before I live install?
I think you're on the list. We've kind of got a little bit of a list going, but we're working out these last few things with the EMV, and then going to have a new packaged build. And again, that's probably going to be early next week that we'll get that out to you.
Okay, great. I stepped in a little late, so if that was repetitive, I apologize.
No problem.
Will people that were at the summit then get an updated copy as well?
Yeah, well, and all you have to do is run the Keystroke update installer, and it'll go out and get you the update. So it'll be posted on the website just like all of our updates are, so it'll be real easy to update.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for attending. I'll be doing this same setup here next week with the ISC 250, and hopefully we'll be, or I'm sorry, not with the ISC 250, with the VX 805, and hopefully we will be live demonstrating that one. So thank you, and I will talk to you next week.